Hey guys, I'm back, and in today's video it's going to be a little different, right? We're going to be talking about me, moi, your girl, Juicy. And you know, it's sort of different today, right? It's me sharing a wild synopsis of many different experiences that I experienced. Okay, the main objective, obviously you read the title, right? So yes, it is now time to finally tell the world what they did to me. I was targeted, I was gang stalked, I was harassed, humiliated, and I had to deal with a bunch of smear campaigns. Some of this is kind of sort of still going on today, you know, the smear campaigning part. You know, people just can't seem to get my motherfucking name out their mouth. So I just figured today's the day. It's now time to tell my story. Before I start, I do want to mention a few things. Firstly, during these events, I was very high. I was smoking a lot of weed. So I do believe that me smoking weed heavily was like a cause and effect, you know what I mean, of why certain things happened to me so heavily, right? I believe that if I was not smoking as much weed as I was at this time, the attacks would have not been as intense. I also want to admit that during this time of my life, I was very stressed, I was very low vibrational, and I did have a sense of lack of faith, okay? So keep that in mind, you know, the smoking heavily, the lack of faith. And there was one more thing I wanted to say before I started. This was a few years ago. This was from like 2024, I believe, until, I don't know if it started 2023 to 2024 and then went into 2025, something like that. But the last few years, you know, all of this shit happened to me. It was really fucking crazy. I feel, still to this day, it's really hard to believe that this shit really happened because it was so intense. Like, it was just hard. You know, it was hard for me. It was intense. It was very triggering. But by the grace of God, you know, by me realigning my stars and getting back in alignment with the Lord himself, Jesus, I have been able to fully recover. And as you can see by the content that I currently do today, I am in a way better position than I have. I mean, I think I've more than recovered from where I was at in the previous years. I do want to say as well, one more thing. This is going to be me basically just telling you the experiences that I remember throughout this time. I don't necessarily remember every single detail. I did try to jot down as much notes as I possibly can. I have 6 pages here of notes, so I think I pretty much got everything, but I probably am missing like a few pointers and things like that. And yeah, I'm gonna be bouncing around, right? It's not in sequence of how all these things happen, right? So let's just jump into it. So I remember feeling very, and I'm gonna have to put this in 2 parts. So this is gonna be part 1. Come back for part 2. At the end of part 2, I'm gonna add some clips. I'm going to I'm just gonna end it very beautifully. So don't forget to come back and watch part 2. I don't want to make this long ass video and then y'all guys feel like, you know, oh, this is an hour, blah, blah, blah. You don't know if you can actually sit and watch the whole thing. So I'm gonna do a 2-part series of, it's time to finally tell the world what they did to me. Targeted, gang stalked, harassed, humiliated, and smear campaigns. So when this first began, I believe it was 2023, 2024, I remember being very paranoid. So paranoid to the point where I actually got my child and I began to run away from my home. I was on the streets. I was everywhere, right? I was literally everywhere. I was in Jersey. I was in Philly. I mean, I was all around New York. It was fucking crazy, right? So the first part that I want to talk about is how I ended up in Jersey. I ended up in Jersey, I believe, and then I went back to New York, the Bronx, exactly. I was trying to like receive help, right? And I went to the hospital. I went to Lincoln Hospital, exactly. For those of you that know, you know Lincoln Hospital in New York, in the Bronx. And, you know, because I was already paranoid, which they should have sensed, but I don't know, right? I can't speak for where these people's minds were at, but I know that I was already paranoid. I went to the hospital to get help. And they literally took my daughter and they locked me in a room for several hours. And when they finally let me out, right, it's like, if you knew that a person was dealing with like mental health issues or a person was paranoid, right, whatever the case the situation is, wouldn't you like try to give them medicine or, you know, just try to help them? You don't just lock somebody in a room, right? So major red flags. And, you know, so they locked me in for several hours. The whole time I'm like pleading, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And nobody's really answering me. You know, they're telling me, ma'am, calm down, calm down, calm down. And then when they finally decide to let me out the room, they told me, I said, where's my daughter? That's the first thing, obviously, because I was asking for her the entire time, you know? So when they finally did let me out the room and say, okay, ma'am, you can leave, I'm like, where's my daughter? You know? And they're like, oh, she's with your brother. I'm like, right? Like, what? What you mean she's with my brother? Like, I came here with my daughter. I came here for help. Where's my fucking daughter at? They're like, oh, she's with your brother, such and such. And I'm just like, that shit just took me all the way the fuck back because I didn't come there for you to give my child to my brother, right? So that was that. So after that, still very much paranoid, right? They didn't give me any real help. They only took my daughter from me and put her in the care of a relative. So I was still very much paranoid. So I was still running around the streets thinking that I'm homeless, right? Very paranoid. I wrote down very paranoid, no medication. I was climbing gates. I was climbing houses, roofs. The parts of the, let me tell you about the part of the roof. I think I was in Manhattan. I think I was in Manhattan at this time, and I felt as though like the police was chasing me. So I ran into this building. This building was open, so I ran into this building, and then I went like upstairs or whatever. Some door was open, so I went through the door. Nobody was in that. Like I went in the room. Nobody was in the room. Some man, he like let me run right past him. He didn't like say shit or anything. I guess he didn't realize that I was not from the building, and the window was open. When I tell you, I literally crossed. You know how like houses, like real life houses, are like they have a little gap in between them, right? So you can walk between the houses. I was on like the 2nd floor. There was a house that was directly over from the window. I literally stepped right over that gap between the house and the building and was on top of a roof of a house. Yes, it's pretty unbelievable. And then I figured, wait, I can't get down. So I looked around. God willingly, you have to, when I'm telling y'all all of this, the only way I survived and the only reason I'm still here today is by the grace of God. I tell you not. Because when I looked around, why the fuck there was a ladder on the side of the house? So I climbed down the ladder, and then I was in like people's backyards and shit, and then I realized I couldn't get out. There was, when I got all the way to the end of like the next building, there was like some ladder, but it was so steep. I was scared. Keep in mind, I'm paranoid as fuck. Went to the hospital. I did not get any help. They only took my daughter. So there was a steep ladder, but I was so afraid to climb up the fucking ladder, so I ended up just standing there screaming for help. Some lady came out her balcony, and I'm telling her, ma'am, do not call the ambulance, just call the police and tell them that I need help, which is crazy. So she ended up calling the police and the ambulance. They had to come down, get me, and guess where they brought me, y'all? To the hospital. So they brought me to the hospital. I had to stay there for, I think I was there for like a week. Then finally I was able to receive some help, and they did put me on medication to bring down like the paranoia and, you know, everything that I was feeling and stuff like that. It was so bad. Nope, like all I could think about was my child. You know, it got to the point where I started having thoughts that my child had possibly passed away. So yeah, very crazy. So I also wrote, yeah, the ambulance came. I seen a very, okay, yes. Now this part of the story was when they was taking me, I think this was the part of the story where they was taking me to the ambulance. And I remember seeing a very specific car behind the ambulance. Like, I've seen this car before. I don't really know like the makes of cars and things like that. Like, I definitely know the color and I can describe it to you, but I don't know like, oh, if it was a BMW or this or that, you know. But I remember seeing this specific car in my neighborhood before I was paranoid, right? If I'm not mistaken, somebody that I was fucking with had this car. And why I seen that car behind the ambulance, y'all? Still to this day, I believe that this whole thing was a setup. I believe that dark arts were done on me, and because I was drinking and smoking heavily, and I had lack of faith at the time, that's the only reason why the magic hit. And God allowed it to hit, because God needed me to go through the situation so I can come out on top, so he can renew my faith and renew me as a person, and, you know, help me get in alignment, right? So I'm gonna keep going. And then I wrote bus station, but I didn't write exactly what happened at the bus station. We can fast forward to now me being in Philly. I went to Philly, me and my child, because obviously I'm running away from gang stalkers and people that I believe were after me. So we ended up in Philly. I don't even know how, y'all. All of this shit really is kind of like a blur. But I ended up in Philly. And I tried to go to, I was like asking people where's the nearest shelters and things like that, you know, because we were just out walking on the street. It's late at night. It's like 12 midnight, 1 in the morning. So I did come across a shelter, and then I'm asking them, hey, do you guys have any rooms, blues, whatever. They telling me, oh no, we're fully staffed. We can't let you in, whatever. So we just was like walking around and things like that. It was kind of crazy. It was actually crazy because this was a night where Meek Mill was having some sort of concert at some place out there. I was literally down the block from some place. I don't know too much about Philly. I just know that I was in Philly for sure. And Meek Mill was having some sort of concert or whatever. So I was like trying to see him. I was trying to see him maybe go in or come out, but no, I didn't see Meek Mill. Shout out to Meek Mill. But so yeah, I was very scared when I was out in Philly, you guys. I don't know about Philly, right? So I'm just wandering around and things like that. It was kind of crazy. The bus stop. Me being at the bus stop, this specific part was when I was in Jersey, right? I told you I'm going to be bouncing around. I can't put it all together as like in sequence, you know, because honestly, I've tried to forget about it. But I had to make this video because there's people that have gone through this. There's people that are currently going through this. There's people that will, hopefully with my video, they will not go through this shit, and they will realize you have to get your faith in line. You have to stop putting these toxicities in your body. You know, there are people that work behind the scenes and they do dark arts. They do very dark things, and they, you know, they're trying to stop you, and they're trying to manipulate you, gaslight you, and hold you back and shit, and hold you down. They're demonic, you know? So, okay, so the bus stop situation. So I was in Jersey at this time, and I remember just being at so many different bus stops. And for some reason, the bus driver, she was this black woman. She was my age, you know. So she was this black woman, this young black woman. She kept driving past me. It's like, and she was laughing too, like she thought it was funny. So I feel like maybe she was in on it, because why? If a bitch is at a bus stop, why the fuck you keep driving past me, right? I eventually did get on a few buses and was finding my way around Jersey. So yeah, that was that. While I was also in Jersey, I was walking, I was so hot. Oh my God. One of these, I believe this was a spiritual psychosis. Both of these events that happened in my life, I think all this that happened to me was a cause and events, and it's called a spiritual psychosis. Because I had lack of faith, smoking a lot and drinking a lot, right? That's what I believe. So y'all can get in the comments and y'all can tell me, you know, if y'all know more information about, you know, what exactly happened to me. All I know is that I made it through by the grace of God, and I'm feeling better than ever. And actually, I'm feeling better than I did before. That I was feeling before this ever even happened in my life. So yeah, there's that. Also, while I was in Jersey, I was so hot. One of the spiritual psychosis was in the summer, and oh my God, I remember being so hot, just walking around the fucking streets of Jersey, and I was looking for a pool to go. I needed to get in some water. I was hot. I was hot as fuck. I was about to pass the fuck out. So I needed to get in just some water. So I was looking around trying to see what pool, you know, if I can find a pool to maybe just take a quick dip in. You know what I mean? And I ended up seeing this pool, but there was some guy that was standing in front of his house, and I guess this is kind of crazy, right? So he comes up, he starts yelling at me. I'm walking by his house and I'm looking at his pool, and then I see him, so I was like, let me just keep walking. He starts yelling in the street, and he's like, what are you doing, ma'am? You better not be scouting my house. I'll get your ass fucked up. He started cursing me out. I don't know, what is scouting? Like, what? I'm not scouting your house. If I said, I'm just looking at your pool, and he's like, no, the fuck you not, bitch. I know bitches like you trying to scout my house or whatever. So I just try to like walk away. So he's like, I'm gonna get my wife, blah, 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 I'm gonna find you, bitch, blah, blah, blah. So I'd like try to go to the next block, and then I try to like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like trying to duck because I didn't know if he was gonna get a group of people. I'm by myself, I'm not in my right state of mind. And so I was trying to like duck and shit like that. He ended up pulling up in his Jeep, him and his wife. So she's screaming out the window talking about some bitch, I'm gonna fuck you up. You trying to scout my house? I'm like, I was trying to duck, but they see me already, so I just got up. So we got a lot of spiritual warfare happening today. So y'all just pay attention to the story. So, I couldn't duck at this point in my life, so I had to just get up. And she got out the car, they both got out the car, the husband and wife, and they were like all in my face, so I'm like, just relax, like I'm trying to calm the situation down, I'm like, we're gonna move.